In 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Welcome into another episode of the Daily Wolves podcast. Special guest in the building. You may recognize him. If you don't, you're not a Timberwolves fan. Got Grady in the building. Grady, right out of the gate, I got to ask, man, how hard was it to get the handle Grady on Twitter?
That was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It was just some older guy who had Grady, and I just sent him a DM and said, "Hey, man, I see you haven't tweeted in like 2 years. Is it okay? Would you like pass that over?" And he was like, "Yeah, no problem." He didn't charge me or anything. And this was.
Wow.
I mean, we're maybe talking about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So yeah, shout out to Uncle Grady who passed that over.
I love it, man. Those first names, it's tough to pull up a last name. It's tough to get those one name, those handles.
100%.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah. I couldn't even get it on Threads.
Yeah, for real. Oh, yeah, good point. But no, appreciate you hopping on, man. Always good to see you, hear from you. First time, obviously, seeing you in this setting. But curious, just like out of the gate, I'm sure everyone that's going to tune into this later is curious. Like, what does off season look like for you, man? What are you up to? What's the family doing? You traveling? You just chilling?
Yeah, just a lot of travel. This was the first off season that was kind of mine to do with what I wanted, and so I did a little bit of work here or there, but not much, not much. Really, just a lot of travel and just relaxing. 82 game grind plus the playoffs. Is a lot, and so it was good to just kind of unplug, get into other things, and kind of get out a little bit. So it was smooth.
Yeah.
It was smooth.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious, selfishly curious. I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are, but like, we think of you, you just show up, you put your suit on, you call it a game. But what does that ramp up period kind of look like? Like, when do you start thinking, okay, Abu Dhabi's coming up, preseason, all that? Like, when does that kind of vacation mode end? And what does that ramp up period sort of look like?
It ended Sunday. So I did go down to Atlanta for a little bit of leisure, but also to check out Ant and his shoe reveal and
Right.
the mural and all that type of stuff. So went out there to see that and catch up with some people, and then came back Sunday night, and then Monday it was, oh man, we're leaving for Abu Dhabi in less than a week. So yeah, so it's been a little bit of packing and kind of getting into basketball mode. So we're not broadcasting those first two games. Our first game isn't going to be until the 17th, but that gives me well over 2 weeks to kind of get locked in, look at rosters for other teams, look over those, edit some stuff. Media day was great to kind of reconnect with some of the guys. I've seen them here or there over the summer, but it was kind of good. There was a lot of enthusiasm yesterday, a lot of excitement about getting rolling. So this has been a big week as far as the ramp up.
Yeah,
Is it different than last year when you came in? And I know the team was kind of, they brought in Rudy Gobert last year. It's a little bit different, right? So this year, what did you notice like differently about the team immediately?
A lot. I mean, it was for me personally. Obviously, it was different because last year was my first year. But
Of
just
course.
in observing the team and seeing everything, Rudy Gobert was dealing with the knee.
Mhm.
Carl Anthony Towns was sick and wasn't available. Um, Ant looked fine to me, but after the fact, he acknowledged that he wasn't in the best of shape to start camp.
Hmm.
And in talking to Chris Finch later, he felt like the team came in kind of cocky. They had a little playoff run, had given the Grizzlies a push. They add Rudy Gobert, and it's almost as if the team came in and felt like everything was going to be handed to them. And that overconfidence hurt them in the early part of the season when they were, losing games to OKC and San Antonio, right? So it was kind of a sluggish start out the gate when you had a schedule that was really reasonable and manageable. So that was last year. This year, so many key guys participated in the FIBA World Cup, and these guys have all coming in. Everybody looks ripped. Everybody looks sharp. Everybody's got their body fat down.
Mhm.
Everybody's excited. Everybody looks motivated. Everybody looks like their back is against the wall and let's go. Towns is ready to go.
No.
Ant is rejuvenated. Jaden McDaniels has got extra bounce in his step. Nas is excited to be back. Rudy Gobert is ready to roll, and injuries aren't bothering him right now. So it is, for me, my observation, night and day different from a year ago. These
Wow.
guys look excited, focused, And obviously, find some wood to knock on. We just want everybody healthy throughout the season for sure.
What did you see, in the FIBA basketball tournament, Grady? Like, obviously, a lot of people watching, they followed Anthony Edwards. He was kind of the main event. But there's been some other guys in the background. Nikhil Alexander-Walker had a phenomenal time. I heard the other day Tim Conley really give him praise as well in the media day conference. And then you have Rudy Gobert playing. Luka Garza did some stuff as well. Didn't play in the tournament, obviously, but, was playing for Team Bosnia. Kyle Anderson, Team China. So the Timberwolves were very heavily represented out there, man. What did you think of the play? What did you see?
Yeah, I thought obviously Anthony Edwards is the headliner for obvious reasons, and it was really great to see what he was able to do out there in taking a leadership role on a squad with a lot of all-stars and a lot of talented players. And to see him be assertive and do a lot of the things that we saw him do, we've seen him do in a Timberwolves uniform. I mean, when Karl Anthony Towns went down, he had to really put the team on his back and help keep the team afloat along with play of other key guys. But Ant earned that All-Star appearance a season ago. Like he's earned everything that's been given to him. And so I think from a national perspective, there were a lot of people seeing it for the first time. But we all saw it, last season, and we saw flashes of it in years past. So that was great as far as the recognition that Ant was giving. But I think he even took his game to an even higher level out there. That I'm excited to see what he's going to do with the Wolves this year. Nikhil, I think the more that he continues to play high level basketball, I think the more comfortable he's going to get in his skin. I think he's still kind of being a young player in this league, kind of figuring out what his niche is. And he is talented and can do so many. I told him this yesterday. He can do so many different things on the court, and that's both a gift and a curse because you feel like you can do everything. You can make this acrobatic pass and thread the needle or whatnot, but maybe you just need a simple bounce pass in this situation. You can hit tough shots, but maybe you don't need to have a high degree of difficulty on a J. So I think it was a great experience for him being out there and representing Team Canada, and then the pride that he felt in bringing home the bronze and going back to Canada and the love that he was receiving. I think it really touched him in a big way. Yeah. Kyle's come back enthused. That's great to see. We know Kyle is going to be Kyle. No changes there. Yeah. But and then even though Rudy didn't get as far as he wanted to with Team France, it was just again to be playing ball, to be playing high level basketball. Again, these guys all look like they're coming in sharp and motivated for this upcoming season.
Trip, before you kind of get into that, just tie into it. Sorry to cut you off. Like, because Grady didn't talk about it, so I just got to hear your opinion, Trip. What did you think about Karl Anthony Towns? Because he looks, I haven't seen him that happy in a long time. So it was just great seeing him just as, a human being be that, excited and put that smile on his face after all the stuff he's been through in the last few years. I thought that was really important. So what do you think about that, Trip?
Yeah, I'm excited for Cat. Look, I think the hype around him being not an alpha the past few years blown out of proportion. The Jimmy Butler thing obviously kind of elevated it, but from a national perspective, a lot of people were saying he's not this, he's not that. And at the end of the day, he's a max player in the NBA making big time money. He's a huge part of what we're doing. He's a generational talent. So for me, I'm really looking for him to kind of just adopt that role. And I don't think it's taking a backseat to Ant, because I think Cat has shown year over year he can be an alpha on any given night. It's not about comparing one or two. Let's just call a spade a spade. You got Cat, you got Ant. That's two very talented, great players on the same team. He's got to just really embrace the idea of not only taking a backseat from game to game, but also taking the front seat and being that guy. Because there's going to be nights where Ant struggles. It's just natural in the NBA. So for me, I'm excited about Cat. I think getting that out of his mind that, like, hey, Ant's the guy. I don't really buy that. You look at other sports, football, baseball, whatever the sport is, you need a lot of talented guys. There's no like, oh, he's the alpha, he's this, he's that. I'm looking for Cat to just be the guy on any given night and take that shot when needed, but also being able to defer to his teammates. So for me, long-winded answer of saying I just look forward to having his talent on the team. We know what Ant is. That hype's not going anywhere, but at the end of the day, you need a lot of talent to win in the NBA. And I think he brings that. And I think if he can just be himself, be healthy, mentally, physically, all that good stuff. I think he's going to have a big season, but definitely we'll defer to Grady for his thoughts as well.
Did you two see like Kevin Garnett's comments on the two of them? Like kind of how they can be like together, not just it's not anyone's team. It's those two need to come together to really make it. I really loved his comments on that. And then also, Grady, I got to ask you because Towns obviously missed 52 games last year in a row. And then I think he missed another game after that later down the road. So 53 total, I believe. Do you think that's the difference between the Timberwolves really being where they were as a play-in team and then being potentially a home court team? Because that's a max caliber superstar player. That's a big difference in the win column for you on the win shares, right?
Yeah, and also I think the biggest disappointment is that you weren't able to see that chemistry with Gobert develop. And that that was what everybody was talking about, heading into last season, and you couldn't see it at the start of the season. And it didn't look great initially, but it's not supposed to look great. You're still figuring things out, and then boom comes the calf injury. And so there were moments, especially later in the season, right leading up to that Phoenix game when Naz Reid went down with the wrist, where they were looking like, okay, they figured something out. We just haven't been able to see it for long stretches. So that's part of the excitement heading into this season. They'll hit bumps in the road. They'll have their growing pains, but to be able to build that chemistry so that they can, their hope is to prove that, no, this two big man lineup can work. I'll be excited to see if they can pull that off.
Yeah, I do want to hit on kind of one or two things we're looking to see in Abu Dhabi, but I also like to sprinkle in a little non-basketball related content for the folks at home. Grady, we had you on the pod last season at some point. Our intro to you from a personal standpoint, I sent you a list of restaurants. Have you been to any of them?
You know what? That's a good reminder. Now I can't remember some off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But I will say that one of my, again, I can't speak enough about how dope the restaurant scene is in Minneapolis. I can't lie, being downtown, I probably navigate more toward places around here and the North Loop, and I get out occasionally. But even within my short radius, I mean, we're talking, fantastic top tier restaurants. And again, I'm coming from New York. So I really feel like this is a special place as far as the food scene. And I'm a foodie. And so whenever I bring people down here, we got spots that we have to hit. So no, I have to double check that list and cross reference. I'm sure I've hit a number of them that you had on that list, but I've been impressed with what I've been able to hit so far.
Yeah, totally fair. Your DMs are a lot different than mine. You've got a lot to navigate. I'm not the only guy. So that list, I don't take too much offense to it. But yeah, just want to shine a spotlight on Minneapolis, St. Paul too. Like,
yes,
if you're not from, like you were a transplant. I was a transplant to the city. I lived there for like 5 or 7 years. If you're not from there, you wouldn't associate it. But like you hit on it, North Loop, downtown, Northeast. Like, man, the food scene is out of control. I've lived many places throughout the country. Minneapolis, the food scene's out of control, and I just love to shine a spotlight for any fans that maybe like Evan and I that aren't local. That maybe you're thinking of hitting a game this year, flying out to see friends or family.
Yeah,
DM me. Restaurants out of control, but like for real, it's just such an underappreciated component. The ambiance.
Yeah. I love it. That's no smoke. I love it.
Grady, there's a lot of we got some new guys on the team this year, man. So I got to bring it up to you because we're not always there right now. We haven't seen the product on the court. Obviously, you probably haven't got to know all of them super well yet, but what are your initial thoughts of some of the new guys? We got Troy Brown Jr. coming in, who fans are excited about. We got obviously Shake Milton, hopefully to take that lead guard role that a lot of people want to see. So how are the new guys, man? And did you get to know them at all, Grady?
Yeah, I'll stick with those two particularly because I think those guys are going to see some minutes right out of the gate potentially. And Troy Brown has got some length on him. He's an athletic player. He's a tough player. Was with the Lakers this past season. Has also had stops in Chicago and then started his career in DC. And I had a good chat with him yesterday. He's excited about this opportunity. He's a guy that I got to put onto the food scene. We talked a little bit about that. Both Troy and Shake did not know a lot about Minneapolis. So they're about to get a real education. They know to get a big coat, and then I'm gonna show them some food spots around here for sure. But no, I like Troy's versatility that he can provide out there. I think this is a place where he's not going to feel a whole lot of pressure to go out there and do too much. Because this team is kind of stacked. You know, they've got guys who can go out there and score. You can't have enough defenders out there, and again, he's got the size where he can guard multiple positions. So you have to love that. And then with Shake, I saw a lot of Shake when I was in Brooklyn. You know, he was a Philly
Oh,
guy
yes.
for a long time, and so I would see him multiple times a year. And they just had such a deep rotation there in Philadelphia that it was hard for him to see regular minutes. But every time he did play, I felt like he was filling up the stat sheet, like he was doing really good things that you would think would justify more playing time. But again, they had such a deep roster down there in Philadelphia that you just couldn't find consistent minutes. So now there's a real opportunity for him, you know, here in Minnesota. And what I liked is that both guys understand that they have to battle for everything that they're going to get, and they're excited about the competition in training camp. Nobody's promised them anything. It's literally coming down to, what are you going to show us on the court? What are you going to show us on the practice court? What are you going to show us in the preseason? What are you going to show us when you get minutes during the regular season? And if these guys play well, then they know that they're going to be rewarded. And so I appreciated that these guys didn't act like anything was going to be handed to them. They know that they're going to have to battle to get whatever they get.
I like that. Trip, what do you think? What do you think about the new guys?
Yeah, I mean, to Grady's point, I think Shake, man, I mean, when you look at his per 36, it was like, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it was like 16 and 8 or something. You know, like he can fill it up. So, and he's still pretty young. You know what I mean? He's a guy like, even going into free agency, I didn't even have him on the billboard. I didn't even realize he was a free, like, that's on me. But what a signing. I think he's going to really help, especially Conley with going up there in age, giving him those rest nights. Shake will be able to sneak right in, probably give you 30 plus minutes and do it at a high level from a distribution standpoint and filling up the stat sheet with some buckets. So I'm excited. I guess to that point, Grady, like what, you know, it's a cliche question, but like what's maybe one or two things you're looking to see out of the team, you know, maybe individualized or from a team perspective going into the season, especially like Abu Dhabi, when you get there, like what are you kind of looking to see?
Right now the vibes are really, I really can't say enough about how good the energy is kind of around the team. And again, this is just comparing it to a year ago. It feels like they understand that they have high expectations, but the fascinating thing about the expectations is that they're still also an under the radar team as well. And so when you look at this roster and you look at the starting five with Conley and Jaden, Cat, and Gobert, like that's a really good starting five. And then coming off the bench, you got Nas and you got Slow-Mo just to start with. You know what I mean? And then of course Nikhil and Shake and Troy will work their way in there, and other guys will be trying to battle for minutes too. That's a talented roster that again, shorthanded gave Denver, the defending champions, all they could handle in the first round. And so you come into this season going, okay, we lost in the first round 2 years in a row, highly motivated, back against the wall. We have high expectations. It's a disappointment if we can't get out of the first round this year. But at the same time, everybody's going to talk about the Lakers. They're going to talk about Phoenix. They're going to talk about Golden State, the Clippers.
Yeah.
They'll talk about Memphis, even with John not being there. Oh, and you can't forget about the defending champions. And I'm probably leaving a couple of teams. Oh, Sacramento, the darling of the NBA a season ago. So the West is tough. And I think that there's just an extra level of excitement to go out there and compete and show the NBA what this team is all about. And I think that now the confidence, even though there'll be bumps in the road, the confidence might be matching the talent, and the belief will catch up with the talent. So what I will be looking forward to after saying all that is, right now the vibes are great, but once you really start playing, you face some adversity, those are your real opportunities to mesh. And Ant and Cat is going to be really important in that. They talked a lot. I heard accountability quite a bit yesterday. And that might mean that you butt heads. That may mean that you have fiery conversation. That may mean you have confrontation. But as long as you keep the main thing, and the goal is in mind, and nobody's being selfish, confrontation can be a good thing. Like you develop understanding, the give and take. You know, Kevin Garnett, you mentioned him in his comments about not being any guy's team. Kevin was a fiery guy, And if
Oh,
he
yeah.
had to get on, Paul Pierce, if he had to get on Ray, like they would do that, but there was respect there from the jump. So I'll be really curious to see when there's adversity, and if Cat has to get on Ant or Ant has to get on Cat. If those guys have an understanding and can be in a fiery situation and still be connected, I think that bleeds toward the rest of the team. I think that trickles down, and everybody else is, oh, okay, we can follow both these two guys. They're holding each other accountable. I can trust them to hold me accountable. I know they're going to be listening to anything that I gave them. Mike Conley, for example, everybody listens to Mike. So Gobert in that as well. It's really going to come down to accountability, because that's the difference between he's trying to help me be better, he's trying to help the team, as opposed to he's trying to make me a scapegoat. So I think everybody feels a bit of responsibility to have a successful season, and we'll see what will happen when they face some adversity. We won't see it in the preseason, but a tough schedule right out of the gate, we may see it early, and I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, and hearing you talk about accountability like this just comes straight off the dome, like as you mentioned that. I mean, I'm just curious, like something that comes to mind, like when you think of Chris Finch, like I love Finchy. I think he's a great dude. He's a dude I'd love to have a drink with. I think he's just a down-to-earth guy. I know you know him well, Grady. Curious, like when you talk about accountability, we have a ton of leaders on this team, a ton of big names. Gobert, Cat, Ant. Conley was an all-star, was a star for many years. Still a very good player, very well respected. We know what he is in the locker room. When you talk about that accountability from a player-to-player standpoint, I mean, what type of role can Chris Finch play in that, right? You're the coach at the end of the day. You need that, it's in real life. I work in corporate America as well. So you need that peer-to-peer accountability without the leaders kind of talking you down. But I'd be curious just from your standpoint, like what type of role can Finch have in that? And how important, just from your time being, near the locker room, traveling with teams, with the Nets, Timberwolves, like how much of an influence can a Finch really have on that?
He can have a big influence, because I think the coach at the end of the day sets the tone, and then it's up to the players to pick it up from there. And so I think Chris Finch does a solid job of there are times where you really notice Chris Finch, when he's getting on guys and again holding them accountable. If he doesn't like something in practice, he is visible, vocal, and letting guys know that this effort isn't acceptable. The execution wasn't acceptable. And so you certainly see that. So there's times where he's clearly visible, and then there's times where it's where's Chris Finch, and then it's the players, and it's now their time to hold each other accountable. So I think he really does a good job of sliding in when he needs to, stepping out, letting ownership, and also it's understanding the type of team that you have. If this was a young, rebuilding team where player development was a top priority, then I would think he would be more, vocal, more visible in terms of this is what has to happen in terms of barking out instruction. But I think he trusts this group, and you start with Mike Conley, and Ant and some of the other guys. I think that he has their respect, and he respects them enough to where, okay, you guys got it. And if they slip, he is really quick to jump on guys. And so I do like that.
Yeah, striking a healthy balance there is so important. Something that comes to mind with Finch, he's splitting up the basketball talk for 2 seconds. He's a big Lake Minnetonka guy. Have you been out on Tonka yet? People, if you haven't done it, especially the Minnesotans that don't know Tonka, they hate on it. They think it's ritzy, blah, 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 blah. It's a special place. Have you been out on Tonka?
I haven't been on a boat out on Tonka. I've eaten. I've kind of like been around, like, by the water or whatever.
I know that.
Yeah. So I've done that, but no, I haven't been out on a boat. I didn't do that this summer. So yeah, I have to save that for next summer. I almost went out with Finch one time. We were going to do an interview. We were going to do a Valley interview on the boat, but timing wise, our schedules, it didn't quite work out. But next summer, that'll have to be a must.
All right, fair enough. I'll kick it over to Evan, but just bulletin board material there, because got a few friends with next time I'm in town. We got some boats in Excelsior. We're getting you on it. I'm holding you to that.
There we go. There we go.
Trip, I got to get your opinion, and I share mine. I got to get Grady's. All three of us. Who do we think this year? I got to know who's taking the leap this year. Could be anybody. Who's taking that leap this year? I'll go first, I guess. Um, I think it's going to be Jaden McDaniels. I think Jaden McDaniels is going to make a leap this year. And I don't know if it's necessarily into like the 20 points per game category, but I think he's going to make a leap this year. I know the easy answer is for everyone to say Anthony Edwards, but I just think Jaden's getting the new contract. You know, he's being taken care of. We finally got the nickname Slim coming out there for all those who have been wanting a nickname. And then on top of that, I just think the kid, the way that I watched him develop offensively last year, that was huge. Putting the ball on the deck, the way he was driving the ball, kind of showing you can score in different ways than before. And then his 3-point percentage has been obviously something that's been good, but improving. And I think that's it's something that I'm really encouraged by. I think at first I just saw these flashes, I felt like, when he was younger, but last year it started to become consistent. And so I'm a big believer in Jaden McDaniels really taking that lead. I'll kick it over to you guys. Who do you think is going to take the lead?
I'll be brief in this answer because I would rather defer to the guy who's actually in the building. But I'm going Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think in terms of his role, right? I don't think he's going to be an all-star, but I think he's going to be a guy that you saw it towards the end of the season. This is a guy that's still very young, was a very high draft pick, and quite frankly, didn't necessarily get all the opportunities he deserved, in New Orleans and throughout his career. I'm looking for him to be a 10 to 12 point a game guy, straight up. I think he's going to have a huge season off the bench for us. He's young. We got him on a great deal. This is a guy that has a ton of talent, still way below his prime. He's got many years ahead of him. And he just seems like he's got his head on right. He seems like a hard worker. I'm really looking at Nickeil to have a huge season.
Would certainly love to see that from Nickeil. This is a tough one because the roster is so deep, and I hope that there aren't injuries that we see that kind of forces someone to have to step up and improve their numbers. There's a lot of balance on this roster, so I think any significant leap may not jump off of a page, but I think we'll be able to see it on the court. I think Jaden's a really good, would love to see that. And I think, and again, from an offensive standpoint, Cat and Ant are going to carry the load. So I don't know that Jaden has to put up a lot of points. And of course, Rudy's going to get his lobs. Conley's going to get some here or there. Nas is going to check in and get his thing. So I think we'll certainly see some growth from Jaden. I loved his efficiency, his improvement from that standpoint a season ago. And he's everybody's favorite player on the team. If it's not Nas Reed, it's Jaden McDaniels. So
Yeah.
We'll have to get some Jaden McDaniels merch out there soon. So I do love that. But this is a long way of saying, I'll also throw out Ant can take a big time leap from a distribution standpoint. If we see his assist numbers go up and he, as a playmaker, I think we'll be saying big things about that. That's one of the things that will move him into an MVP conversation. The scoring will always be there from Ant. I think he's going to get more respect at the free throw line after receiving notoriety playing for Team USA. So he's obviously a more of a recognizable face in this league. And I think that'll be reflected in his free throw attempts because he attacks the rim with reckless abandon. But his distribution and making his teammates better is going to elevate him. So I say all that to say, I'm going to go unorthodox. I'm going to go Rudy Gobert, and I'm going to say this from a perception standpoint because he really had a monkey on his back after being dealt, and he's not responsible for the guys that he was traded for, right, or the picks or anything like that.
Yeah,
just a player. But he was not healthy for good chunks of last season, and I think from a perception standpoint, both offensively and defensively, I think Timberwolves fans are going to have a better opportunity to see his value and impact on the team than what they saw a season ago. And so from a block shots, affecting shot standpoint, from a finishing at the rim standpoint, starting the season with Mike Conley, who knows how to give him the ball and has been working on it, distributing to the big man inside too. I think just from a perception standpoint, expect Rudy Gobert to make a big leap this season.
Yeah, that would be huge. That would be huge.
You two kind of have anything else? You kind of want to wrap it up, Trip? Or
yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, Grady, we took too much of your time. We certainly appreciate you.
No,
but
love talking hoops.
Yeah, love talking to you in general, man. We appreciate you. You're a great dude. Love shooting shit with you. Huge fan of your work. We're all your biggest supporters at Grady on Twitter. Obviously heading to Abu Dhabi. Looking forward to the season. You and Jim Peter, the best in the biz. Can't thank you enough, man. Just appreciate you. You're the best, and certainly as accessible as they come, which says a lot about you. And we appreciate that, and wishing you a huge season ahead.
Looking forward to it, my man, and appreciate you both. And no, I love talking hoops, and happy to talk to you guys anytime. And I'm really, I'm not one to just blow smoke and just go, hey, yeah, going to be a great season. I really feel like if this team is healthy, they're going to battle, and I'm really expecting good things. I know that the fan base hasn't had a lot to cheer for over the years, or a lot to get excited about, or it's kind of I'll believe it when I see it mode, or whatever it may be. But this just looks like a squad that's taken it to heart. And again, there will be bumps, there will be losing stretches or whatnot. But if they don't let ego get in the way, if they stay banded together and they're able to battle through adversity, they have enough talent to compete and enough versatility on the roster to compete with anybody in the league. You want to go big, they'll go big. You want to go small, we can run with you. This is a versatile roster. I'm excited to see what they do. I don't know. We won't see any glimpse during the preseason. We're gonna have to wait a little bit. That Toronto game, that'll be because Toronto's tough and they're gonna be ready to go. They have a little bit of a different look. But I can't wait for that Toronto game. Have that one circled on the calendar, and of course the home opener against Miami will be wild. So some great games out the gate.
Yep, appreciate you, Wolves fans. Season's almost here, boys and girls. Get ready. Grady, can't thank you enough. Tune in. Abu Dhabi's right around the corner. Go Wolves.
Go Wolves. Thanks for tuning in.